This is the Timeform Radio In Running podcast with Neil Munro.
Fun and games, I'm sure, to be had with Neil, who joins us once again. How are you, Mr. Monroe?
I'm really well. How are yourself?
I'm okay. I'm doing okay. It's been an interesting few 7 days, hasn't it?
It's been a fascinating few days, to be honest, and really good racing. Obviously culminated last weekend with the Hennessy, but just generally it's got a really nice feel to it, isn't it? We have a good run up to Christmas, really cracking racing over Christmas. Then we go through a little bit of a lull in January and February before everybody starts getting very excitable with our second Christmas that takes place in March.
Lots to discuss with Neil, but first up this.
In Running, Story of the Week.
Well, I'm going to say it and I'm going to use Neil's line. Didn't we have a lovely day the day we went to Bangor, for those that backed Kilmervy anyway in the run?
Lower Hope Dandy from the front, two in front of Syrian Shock, who looks the threat as they race towards the second last flight. Lower Hope Dandy, though, up and over safely. Syrian Shock making no further impression now in second. Who Owns Me left behind in third. Kilmervy next, and Volcanic's been at the tail throughout, but heading towards the final flight. And it is Lower Hope Dandy who's 8 lengths clear of Syrian Shock in second. Similar gap opening up to the others at the final flight of hurdles. Lower Hope Dandy blunders and falls at the last with a race at his mercy. Put off in second place Syrian Shock, who unseats the rider, and that has now left Kilmervy and Who Owns Me to fight it out with Volcanic back in third. So as they head towards the line, it's Kilmervy out in front, a length clear, a most fortunate winner. More drama at the last here at Bangor today, and Kilmervy goes on to beat Who Owns Me in second, and Volcanic was third.
Well, I was on duty in the studio that day at Bangor, and Lower Hope Dandy, who fell when seemingly having the mercy of the race. It's one of the worst things for a punter, isn't it, when you're totally in control, Neil, and there we go, down, tipped up, and Kilmervy went on to win. And
it is interesting now, because I think the kind of mark that slightly surprised me was the 102, because generally, and this is a generalisation, generally the last fence is normally a 104, 105. At this time, obviously, the horse had been pressurised down to 102, but you tend to see, as a horse travels over the final fence, the market sticks at 104, 105. That's what people believe is a horse's price for jumping the last fence. So went slightly lower than we maybe would have expected. Obviously, crumpled, and thank God the horse is all right. Then we had the really interesting, also secondary incident, which happened straight after, where Syrian Shock obviously seemed to be put off, unseated the rider. That one traded 103, and of course the horse to pick it all up. And believe me, this is a horse that wouldn't have been a winner on this day if we hadn't seen those incidents. Kilmervy traded at 1,000. For me, Al, the one to take out of it, because as you know, I like to then look in to see if there's any horses that are worth taking out of these incidents. Lower Hope Dandy, Venetia Williams, 7-year-old. A rarity, I guess, for Venetia, in that his best form seems to be on good soft ground as opposed to heavy and soft ground. He's won twice when he's encountered good soft ground. He's a front runner, but he does travel well, and that's why his price had contracted all the way down to 102. He's a smooth traveller. In all his runs so far, he's hit half BSP 5 out of 8 times. Obviously gone on to win twice, so he's all to take out of it, but a fascinating end to a race.
One thing I really wanted to ask you about, Neil, because I remember it so vividly, the pure speed of in-running play, I suppose, because Syrian Shock, now I wasn't watching him live in the race because the focus goes on Lower Hope Dandy and then he tips up, but there will be those at speed looking as to what happens behind, and that quick flash on Syrian Shock, I mean, that must have gone very quickly in an instant. So how quick would you have to be? How much would it be trading, pressing buttons, or would it be automated from your experience?
In the main, it's pressing buttons. For those who don't know, particularly the people on course, but obviously with other people with kind of one-click software, people on course tend to have phones set up with certain horses. And obviously in a small field, it's quite easy because you could use your keypad, say, from 1 to 9. But most in-running traders have their phone set up where the keypads are indicated to, obviously, the horse's saddle cloth number. And then normally they have it set up that literally the hash key is a lay, the star keys are back, and they have preset parameters for what they're going to do. So somebody who, say, is willing to back say they're a 101 backer for 500 quid each time, hoping to get bigger prices, they would literally just have to do the move of pressing the horse number, so horse number 3, then press, say, the star key for a back, and that would go straight in. So literally 2 key punches into a mobile phone would then get that better placed into the system with no, obviously, confirm or anything after that. So that's how quickly people can react. Probably, half a second to be able to react, if not quicker, if you are quicker, and those bets go up into the system.
In running, trading tip of the week.
Now, the tip of the week is about a changing in the in-running scene, and that focuses on the liquidity. Neil, tell us more.
Yeah, I just think, there's a general consensus, I think, certainly if you read like the Betfair Forum and certain other avenues for people to give their view, that the in-running scene and the liquidity has gone down. But we've actually noticed, looking at the figures and seeing how things have gone, that liquidity is actually up. And I think that's an interesting one because it suggests a couple of things. First of all, as I'm sure most people are aware, Betfair have been advertising on kind of Channel 4 and obviously other racing channels. And they have been advertising the fact that you can back a horse in the run. They've kept it fairly simple for those people who don't really fully understand the exchange. So that is a little suggestion that there is probably some new people getting involved and people who aren't quite so educated with how in-running markets work as maybe people who've been on Betfair for a long, long time are. The other factor is also that in-running trading actually at courses is becoming a kind of tougher environment. There's more groups of people, there's more people looking to play on actually at the course. And that in a way gives you an advantage if you're someone who just picks a mark, because what they're doing is they all try and pressure each other and they all have to maybe pick lower marks. If you're a backer and you normally back at, say, 1.1 for, £1,000 and you're willing to pick up any marks above that, if there's other people there, you might be tempted to go 109, 108, just to beat those other people. So it is a competitive and interesting kind of area, I think. I think the market is still evolving. It's definitely become more educated over the last 3 or 4 years, but I also think there is some new, kind of players in there. People are constantly looking for different angles. So there's always a chance that where you think maybe the market will second-guess what's going to happen and you won't hit the marks, in fact, what you find out is some horses still do trade and shock you in the trades that they make. So it's a really interesting area, but I think there's definitely some new money around on the market.
In running, database horses.
And the 3 that make the list this week, Visa Virtue, Pendra and Avispa, who really caught the eye the way she travelled recently. Visa Virtue first up, Neil. What do you like about Henry Daly's 5-year-old?
Well, I thought it was a really decent seasonal reappearance. I was in a quite tough little handicap hurdle at Newbury last week. All I look for in a horse that I've been keeping an eye on the previous season is an indication that they're going to run in the same way as they had the previous season. And certainly I got everything I wanted out of this run. The horse was running off a stiff mark after 9 months off, but the horse looked all about stamina. Definitely worth probably a try over further. They tend to run it prominently, but the horse does react well to pressure and keeps on finding. And what I really liked about it was kind of 3 out, you would have said, probably the horse's chance was gone. But then coming into the final 2, rallied, really made a good effort. There's obviously more to come. If you look at his track record, he's plenty of times traded 2 and 4 times the BSP in the 1. So I think he's worth keeping an eye on. He's worth remembering to try and back at big prices in the run. And he also, which kind of falls in line with the fact that he does find quite a bit, his best runs have come on heavy ground. And
Pendra for Charlie Longston, from an in-running point of view, is it lay to back or back to lay?
Well, I think he's a back to lay, but he definitely hasn't always convinced that he's going to be up for a battle, and I think that from that point of view, he's one to kind of try and take on in the run. He's got some pretty decent form in there. I mean, if you look at it, he's got a third to present view at the festival, so overall he has got some really decent form. Because he does travel quite well, but doesn't always find, you can kind of get out because he's hit half BSP at 10 out of 11 runs, so he consistently hits that mark. You can then get out a lot lower, hopefully, with him turning your position around. But he's definitely one to be aware of, actually, in the finish of a race. So just keep an eye on him. Obviously, last time out, he made a bit of a blunder. this caused him to fold up. But I think overall, if you look at his track record, he doesn't always find as much as you'd hope.
And I'm glad you've included Avispa, because also in the same race, a Newbury Broxbourne, who surely has got to go up in trip and was a stayer on the flat, but very much focusing on Alan King's Avispa. Smooth is mentioned quite a few times with her.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting make-up to the race, because you had the Irish Raider, Carrickmorna Rock, who was a lot more experienced than these, and was well backed and ended up obviously taking the race. But I thought of Vispa, she looked really, really decent. She's got some, obviously the Ida in cracking form. I thought she built on her hurdling debut okay. She's won twice in bumper races, but she's just such a smooth traveller. She does just catch the eye. She's hit half the BSP every run, twice over hurdles, 4 times over bumpers. She's won twice. She has got a 1.22 defeat against her name, but nothing that I can see that it doesn't mean she's genuine. So I think she's well worth as a back to lay for the future. And you mentioned Broxbourne in the same race. Now, I think I talked about this horse probably 15, 16 months ago when it was a flat horse for Mark Johnson. Really does find for pressure. And I think she just ran a pretty decent race in third. She stayed on late, probably didn't have the race run to suit. So Avispa definitely is a back to lay, and probably Broxbourne is a back in running at a big price.
In running, this weekend's action.
And we are focusing on the Tingle Creek on Saturday at Sandown. I'd love to be talking about Sprinter Sacre. I'd love to be talking about Cider Grugy, but we're going to talk about Mad Moose.
Yeah, well, you've got to talk about the characters, haven't you? I mean, obviously